While Andreas is getting his mic to work, we are recording all our meetings. So if anybody has a problem about being recorded, just let me know, and I will have to ask you not to be with us. We are recording this so that people that did not participate today or people that want to listen to it again will be able to listen to it. Andreas, there's a slight problem here with your mic. Let me call you. I don't have my telephone here. Just a second. Andreas, can you hear me? Andreas, can you hear me? Okay. Andreas left, and he's going to come back. Dan Reisner, I'm wondering, Yossi, you wanted to say something, Yossi? Andreas is back. It's probably going to work. Good evening to you, Vaslava and Jana, and good evening, Tehila. Let's see if it works now with Andreas, with the mic. It worked last time. I hope it's going to work now. Well, normally it takes a couple of seconds before everything is working. I'll try and call Andrea on the phone just to find out what's happening. Bear with me just a second. Here we are. Let's see what's happening. I'll let everybody listen in.
Hello?
Yeah. How are you, Andrea?
I can hear you.
I
can't send audio out. I think video should work now.
Yes, video works. I can see you, but I cannot hear you. So I think what it is, Andreas, one thing you can try, I'm not sure that it's going to work, is if you press Control at the bottom of your keyboard and try to speak, this might help. No, it doesn't.
I see speaker, I see something working, but I don't see the...
No.
Can I restart my computer quickly because
yes.
I have this external monitor. In a minute,
Okay.
I'll be back.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, we will be here, I promise.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I'm sorry for that, but that's the pleasure of being live and online and everybody with his little computer and problems. Yeah, Gerhard wants to say something. I will unmute Gerhard. I would rather not unmute everybody together. So, yeah, go ahead, Gerhard.
Yes. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now. It's much, much better. There's
excellent. Okay, I just wanted to test that, so I can go on mute again.
Okay. Yossi Schiffman, did you want to say something? I see that your hand is risen. No, okay. Tehila, I'm wondering whether you can hear me or not. Tehila, because I can see that you're here with us, but I cannot, I don't understand whether, I can see you twice now. Okay, that's getting better. I can see you twice, but I don't see you with the microphone, so I don't know whether you hear me or not. Okay, well, I guess what we'll do in the meantime until Andreas comes back with his computer is we will try to tell you a little bit. First of all, let me do a quick run. I will just name people as I see them, and please write in the chat whether you can or cannot hear me, okay? So we will start with Dan Reisner. Can you hear me, Dan? Just please put yes or no. Well, if you don't put anything, I guess you don't hear me. Dan Schklarski, can you hear me? Dan Schklarski, if you can hear me, please say yes in the chat box. Okay, Gerhard can hear me. Inge, can you hear me today? Yes, very good. Okay, Itai Katz, we know. Leah, we know. Luisa, we know. Nero, we know. Sabine, can you hear me today? Hi, Dan, I can hear you fine. I cannot see the video. I know. Well, the video will be back in a second. Good evening, Sabine, and I'm glad that you can hear me today. Tehila, can you hear me? Zilch, okay. Andreas is back, so I hope that in a second it's going to work here. Vaslava and Yana, can you hear me today? Yes, very good. And Yossi, I did not understand whether you can hear me or not. Yossi? Yossi Schiffman, will you please just write in the chat whether you can hear me or not? Okay. Well, sometimes a no is an assent, and sometimes it's a dissent, so we'll go by assent this time. I will have to mute everybody, and I see that Andreas' microphone is still not working. What we probably can do is, I'm just wondering if I can add you into this through the phone, but it won't be very good. I'm trying to understand why. Trying to understand why I don't hear you. Andreas, can you hear me now? If yes, you can maybe write in the chat box something. It's strange that we can hear almost everybody and we can't hear you. I don't know, let me call Andreas quickly here. Yeah. Really? Just a second, I'll see. Try now. I don't hear you. Yes. No. Okay. Yes. And last time you spoke with your internal microphone? Okay. I tell you what I'll do. I will finish for a while the audio conference only, and then if you remember at the audio, you can check your equipment just to make sure that that our technology recognizes your technique. And once you do that, just write in the chat that you've done it, and I'll open up the conference again, okay? Okay, thank you very much. What I asked Andreas is to wait a second. I'm going to finish the audio part. We will all still be here, and I'll just finish the audio part. We can still converse with each other through the chat and everything like that, just to allow Andreas to check his equipment. this is a very good opportunity for everybody that has a problem hearing us or talking to do the same thing. You have to go to audio at the navigation bar. On top, there's File, Edit, Share, View, and Audio. And once you I hope it's going to work now. Let me see.
Can you hear me?
Ah, fine.
Okay.
Okay.
Hello?
Yes.
Ah.
Aha. Okay, there's a little song here and dance, but please, everybody, be very private about this. We don't have to know. Exactly. Okay, so again, welcome everybody to our little salon here. Yossi seems to have a problem here with his microphone, but anyhow, that's neither here nor there. I hope he will solve it next time. In the meantime, let's start. So as I was saying earlier, Andreas, I know that you're not the only musician in your family. Could you please tell us a little bit about your family? I'm going to open the video session here so everybody can see us. By the way, on your left-hand side is not Andreas Scholl. Andreas Scholl is in your right-hand side, where it says Andreas Scholl. Everybody knows that. Okay. Okay, Andreas, please.
Well, it's a musical family in the sense that music happens all around us in this little village. There's a choir, a voice choir, where we sing, where we sung, and the choir still exists today. So we sung every day, had singing lessons every Sunday. We sang a mass in church. And then, of course, at home, long before I joined the choir, there's a dog barking.
There's a dog barking here. Let me just make sure that I unmute it all. Okay. This should do it, I hope. Okay, let's try again. I think that now we won't have the dog.
Yeah, and so long before I even joined the voice choir, there was music in the house. My father played the piano and the organ, and so I listened to music almost every day.
When did it happen that you actually thought that music can be a way of life? I don't want to use the word career, because that probably comes much later. But when did you decide, or did you feel that music can become for you a way of life?
Very late, actually, very late. Until I was, I don't know, 16 maybe, I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life. I then was, well, how should I say, I should have explained, the choir master and the vocal coach of the voice choir told me, hey, you're 16 and you're still singing soprano, maybe you should be a countertenor. So
I've never heard something like that, but okay.
And at that age, I don't know, I wanted to study theology at the time. I wanted to join a German anti-terror unit of the police, and I don't know, and all these teenage dreams. And then this lady mentioned the word countertenor, and I thought, well, since I have no other idea about what to do with my life, I'd try singing. And I calculated that by the end of my studies, I would be 25, and if I wouldn't have succeeded as a singer, I could still study something else or learn something else to make a living. So that's how I started. But of course, arriving in Basel after directly after school and after my military service, which was it was quite a shock to arrive in Basel at the music academy, because I had 1 year of non-stop military, no day of holiday, because I wanted to study and I needed to study in October. I didn't get any holidays, so I could finish a little bit earlier. And I left the barracks and returned my uniform on a Monday, and a Monday the week after, I found myself in the cafeteria of the Schola Cantorum, and not being really knowledgeable about music theory, and of course believing that everybody who was bragging in the cafeteria was really knowledgeable. I mean, they were all kind of playing this game of, oh, have you read the latest book of and I knew nothing, so I felt quite, I didn't think, oh, this is what I always wanted to do. I felt that this probably wasn't the right place for me. So for a while, I felt pretty much alone in Basel. And then I was asked to participate in a students' project. It was Commedia dell'arte. An Italian family, the Carrara family, came and joined the students for a beautiful, funny musical comedy of Pantalone. It's a traditional Italian theater play about the master of the house who is after all girls and servants, something that was later taken into the La Serva Padrona, always, or even in Notte di Figaro. I mean, all these it's a prototype story, and this family plays it for generations, and for the little breaks that were in between the comedy, the so-called intermezzi students were asked to propose some little music moments. And I was part of an ensemble, and during the rehearsal I heard my colleague Gerd Türk, who's now a teacher at the Schola Cantorum, Ulrich Mesthaler, who also teaches with me, and back then a soprano by the name of Gundula Anders, rehearse and sing a piece by Claudio Monteverdi. It's Lamento della Ninfa. And I was 20 years old. I guarded nuclear rockets for a year, and I sat there and I heard this singing, and I started to cry. And it was the first time in my adult life ever that art or music or anything artistical moved me to tears. And I felt the power of music. And I think at that moment also I understood how Gundula, especially the others also, I mean it's a trio, but especially the soprano, how she approached this music with full sincerity, with all the love she had for this music. There was not a trace of showmanship. She really lived the piece. And although I didn't know all the elements of what she did, it's not that I analyzed it, but for a moment I think I got a glimpse of, hey, this is what music is about, this is what singing is about, this is what musical communication is about. And from that moment on, I had no doubts that I was sent in a way to that place, because that was my life mission, to be a singer. And it's a self-fortifying process. If you do what you love most and you feel that you like it and that you have success with it, you never start questioning whether it was the right choice. I never questioned after that I was supposed to be a singer.
So you never thought about going back to the anti-terror unit?
They wouldn't have taken me at the time because I was extremely cross-eyed as a little child. I was cross-eyed, and my brother also. My brother had an operation on his eyes, and the doctors screwed up
Wow.
the eye. So my brother is still cross-eyed and he can't be operated anymore. And so the GSG9, as it's called, they would have never taken me because I don't have three-dimensional vision. And in fact, when I was in the military, somebody said, well, let the military do something for you and go to the military hospital. They have good experts for the eyes. And I had a consultation with one of the doctors who was a music lover, and he said, hey, if you want to be a singer, I will operate you because musical communication happens also with the eyes. So if you are like this with your eyes, it will disturb the audience, and I will operate you. So he straightened out my eyes, and I think it helps the singing, definitely the communication.
Okay. So we are now at 1988, is that correct? And you are
2010.
in, beg your pardon?
I think it's 2010.
No. In your story. I think it's 2010. It was last time I looked, but things change very fast around it. So anyhow, 1988, and your first teachers were who? Is Richard Levitt started teaching you from the start?
Richard Levitt taught me from the very first day at the Schola Cantorum. He still is my teacher,
yes.
And he's the one teacher that I owe so much about developing my voice. And I just had a recording in Italy a few weeks ago, and Richard coached the recording as he did last year, and it was one of the most fantastic experiences. He's the most knowledgeable person about the human voice, and he really put me back on the right track. It's easy for a singer to fall into bad habits, and I have to say that Richard really brought me back on the right track, and his presence alone just triggered all the right reflexes in singing, because I know exactly what he stands for, his theory, his philosophy of singing, and when he's there, I have no choice but to sing the right way.
Okay, well, with your permission, I would like to start now with a recording you did very close to the beginning of your studies. We are at 1990. Harmonia Mundi did a recording of Dietrich Buxtehude, Jesu Membra Nostri, with a director who was also one of the teachers, René Jacobs. Is that correct?
Yes, I studied with René Jacobs about from the second year on, and he was teaching as I teach now these days. He came about 4 or 5 times a year at the time, teaching for a week, and it was a very intense way of learning from him. Yeah.
And here we have a recording with the Concerto Vocale, which is a group led by René Jacobs. One of your first idols, Gerd Türk, is the tenor here. Mm-hmm. And we have Martina Bove as soprano and Maria Christina Kier as a soprano. And the bass is Ulrich Mestthaler. Let me just ask you a very quick question about the difference of the bass as we know it in the lyrical opera and the bass as was intended in the softer way in the Baroque music. Because when we hear a bass today, it's normally, if it's an operatic bass, it's normally rather pinny, like metal. There's something cold and metallic about it. And the baritone, some of course have both, like Thomas Quasthoff, but
well, it's of course the music is composed in a certain way, especially if you sing in a vocal ensemble. you still hear me?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Especially in a vocal ensemble, you have to blend into the sound of the ensemble. So if you have a style, a vocal style that is too, how should I say, too individual, too flamboyant, too extravagant, and the sound doesn't blend in the ensemble, it simply is not working, you know.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I said that because I must say that I have not heard a lot sung by Ulrich Mesthaler, but the way he delivers here is so soft that it comes across almost as a baritone, and it's really written for bass.
Almost as speaking, and that's again something that
Yes.
René Jacobs would say, and Richard Levitt would say, that this music is motivated by the words, and it follows a speaking rhythm, and the lighter. Light doesn't mean soft, and light doesn't mean no sound. Light means that you don't squeeze and push the voice, but that you try to use your body at a maximum, with a maximum resonance. And then, with very little effort, you can produce a big and resonant sound that sounds very natural. And Ulrich is very good at that, yes.
Okay. Just 2 words about this work of Dietrich Buxtehude, who, as a little episode, not such a little episode, Johann Sebastian Bach once marched for about 250 kilometers just to meet Dietrich Buxtehude at his Abendmusiken.
Mm-hmm.
The story goes that Dietrich Buxtehude wanted to actually get a husband for his very ugly daughter, but he also was an outstanding and divine musician. This he actually did not write straight away for church. He wrote that for his Abendmusiken, and it's about each and every member, member of the body of Christ. And here we have the ad genua, which means to your knee. René Jacobs, Andreas Scholl, Dietrich Buxtehude. That was at Genua, Buxtehude, director René Jacobs. So actually 2 years into your studies, you already record one of the, I don't want to say the most difficult, but the most outstanding to my mind and to my ear, works of the Baroque, work that is really, as you said before, it's not even acting, it's saying a prayer, and saying a prayer while music is playing another prayer, and then they all meet together. Where do you go from there?
This was one of the greatest times in my life, singing in this ensemble. Not in general ensemble singing, but with these musicians. In general, I think that you should always work with people who are better than yourself, because that's the constant stimulant to work on yourself to be better. It's easy as a student to just pick people in ensembles that are as good as you or a little bit less good, and then you can always feel like the king. You're like the one-eyed in the country of the blind, and or as I call them, the cafeteria kings. People who then come back from a little concert trip and they talk about it, and they're the kings of the cafeteria. But I always, almost exclusively, worked with people who were and who are better than I am, better musicians in total. Maybe not always better singers, but better musicians, and I can always learn from them. If you do an opera production, you have people who are better on stage than I am. And at that time, I was under the guidance of René Jacobs, one of the geniuses of Baroque music, or early music, and I sang with the most wonderful friends. And we did many projects. We did the Buxtehude CD, and we went on tour with it. We did concerts with Monteverdi madrigals. So we went to Japan, my first visit to Japan with these people. We did Alessandro Grandi as a Schola Cantorum production, and we did a tour of a St. John's Passion where the same singers were the soloists, and it was a dream for me, and especially singing with Maria Cristina Kier, because there are moments where our voices blend so well that I don't even know who sings the top voice and who sings the bottom voice. And it is something really special. There are few colleagues with whom I can sing in such a telepathic way that you, in a concert, you do things, and while you do it, you hear something happens and you react, and it's a constant transmission on the non-verbal communication line. And if it's the right ensemble, I remember moments when we run through, I think, La Festina, the first parts with René Jacobs, and everybody was well prepared. It was an ensemble that had sung together already for a couple of years. And we just sang, and then we all stopped at the end of the piece, and there was a long silence. And René Jacobs said, well, that was already music making. Huh? If you meet with the right people and everybody is well prepared and it's a good ensemble, it will never be these student rehearsals of, in bar 25, your F sharp should be a little bit softer, and don't you think that because it's from 1728 that the ornaments you do of it, we have these rehearsals, and it's a nightmare. And René Jacobs always told me and told students of ensembles, if you don't make music in the second rehearsal, forget the project altogether. I mean, if you're, it shouldn't be this endless process of discussing music. And with these people, I don't know, there was an ensemble sound, there was a joy of singing, there was so much fun involved, and such a, seriously, I mean, it was ensemble singing on the highest level, I would say, at the time. And this was such a good school for me. First of all, I was a very bad, and I'm still not a great sight reader. So I'm not like most English countertenors who can pick up a piece of music and sing it sight reading, which in a way is better because I taught these kind of singers and they quickly get to a point where they get musically satisfying results, and probably they get there too quickly, so that they don't see the necessity to investigate the music they're singing any further. But I really, when I learned, for example, in Buxtehude music, I had such fear of René Jacobs, who hates people who are not well prepared, and he destroys them, he kills them, and because
Hello.
Hello, Thomas.
Hello, Dan.
and sorry, where was I?
You were with René Jacobs screaming at you.
Oh, well, he screamed at me just once, I think, but out of a misunderstanding because I didn't get the whole pack of music that I was supposed to get. So, but I was always so afraid of scared of René Jacobs that if I entered a rehearsal with René, my music was memorized. I could have entered the rehearsal without any printed music because I was so obsessed with getting it right. And that was a very good school for discipline, yeah?
Sorry.
What's going on here?
I don't know. I don't know.
Somebody recognized Itaika.
Oh, okay. Okay, that's good. By the way, this is exactly what U-Sophia is all about. U-Sophia is about being a salon online, which means that in each and every house, before each and every computer, we can have up to any number of friends and just be all together and share ideas and just be with other curious minds and interesting people.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Andreas, let me just go back. First of all, a little anecdote, which I'm sure you know.
Mm-hmm.
The big story about Pavarotti was that he could not at all read music.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's true or not, I don't know, but I myself happened to be in one performance of his at La Scala where he couldn't get the right note. And as you know, the people at La Scala are not very friendly, and they love if in an opening night the singer gives them a reason to boo, and they booed Pavarotti, who had to stop singing, which for me does not mean, in my humble opinion, that he is not the greatest tenor voice that I have ever heard, because it's such a huge voice that he had. But he never said that he does know how to read music, so I guess that his difficulties were even much larger than yours. What I find so outstanding in your voice is, but for the technique and everything else, normally we tend to expect from a countertenor, as from sopranos, a high voice. With you, it's a high but a very wide voice. The way you deliver your voice is, well, you say it all the time. You have a big body, so there's a lot to develop and produce that voice. But the way it glides out is very wide, although it's high. I mean, it's probably about an octave or even more than your normal baritone voice. But it's very wide. And I wanted to take this opportunity, if it's okay with you, and I would like to listen to something that was done much, much later. This was done almost yesterday. No. This was done for Decca, Ombra Mai Fu, Handel von Serres, Act 1. Very famous. Tell us a little bit about, did you actually ever act in Serres?
No, I never played that role. But it's, of course, people know this aria as Handel's Largo. Although Handel wrote a few more other pieces with the same tempo indication, and And it's a piece that is one of Handel's, if probably not Handel's best known piece. It's being sung at weddings, at funerals, wherever. It's played by trumpet. There's arrangement probably for every existing instrument on this planet. And the truth is that as much pathos the aria can have and as solemn as it can sound, the words are pretty simple, and people, musicologists, think that it was even meant in a kind of ironic way, because the story is simply, it's in the beginning of the opera, the main character, Xerxes, walks in, and he takes a rest underneath a tree, platano, under the platano. I don't know what the name is for that would be in English, and he just lies down under the tree and says, "Was there ever a more beautiful shade than the shade of this beloved platan?" So that's all the words. So it's no religious context. It's not a love aria. It's nothing significant. But the music, of course, is this typical Handel reduced to the max thing. It's with the first few chords, Handel establishes the mood. And I sang this in a rehearsal once where all other singers rehearsed their music while stage people hammered away and prepared the stage for a television show. There was no silence. And then this aria started. It takes, I don't know, many bars before the singer starts. So that the people just heard the first few bars of the music, not my singing, but the chord progressions. And suddenly we had silence in the hall. The stage hands, everybody who was before swinging and bum 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 bum, stopped. And it's this typical Handel miracle of, it's not a super sophisticated piece, but it's Baroque music at its best.
So let us listen here. Andreas Scholl singing with the Orchestra of the Age of Enlightenment, Ombra Mai Fu. under my flue, as Andreas already said, a very, very famous and very lovely aria by Handel. But I don't want to jump all the way up to this. What happens between 1990 and the late of the last millennium? Because first of all, I think you don't sing in ensembles anymore. Is that correct?
No, that was a natural ending, so to speak, of the ensemble singing. The second, of course, as a singer, if you get invitations to be soloist in first of all in an oratorio or Bach cantata context, that's the moment when, of course, you want to try that. And if you have success in that, of course, it's after singing ensemble for many years, it's also very interesting, probably more interesting even. And vocally, you also have to take, if you want to sing as a soloist, in my opinion, you have to take away the step from the ensemble singing. The ensemble singing is mainly about blending into the ensemble and creating a common idea, collective interpretation. So it's always just a part of you that creates the music. And of course, the composition is number one. So creation of music in the first place is Bach, Handel, whoever wrote the music. But the responsibility for the soloist who sings alone, without other singers, but with only the instruments, is much bigger. And you have much more freedom to create an interpretation, a result in the end of an aria that is really very much what you exactly want. If you're lucky and have a conductor who lets you do this. I mean, there's also conductors who keep you from being individual and tell you that's the way I want to do it. So, all success.
I have a feeling that, sorry. Okay, I have a feeling that what probably took the place of your ensemble singing, in a way, is your being with your students, creating a kind of a, if I may say so, an ensemble of the minds in a teaching kind of way, because that is, I read once what René Jacob said in an interview that he held, that he feels that a good class, at least in music, he said, is a class where everybody sings from the same note sheet. In other words, if nobody is going in other directions, there's a good sensitivity in the class. When did you start teaching?
Actually, I think my first invitation to teach a master class was when I was 27 or 28. I taught a master class in Lörrach, and I had very little ideas. I mean, I did some teaching for the so-called Übstudenten, Übschüler, which is basically your guinea pig, your student that is given to you by the music academy, usually some, I don't know, some instrumentalist. For me, it was Moshe Hass from Israel, a violinist who sang countertenor, and I taught Moshe as a countertenor. And then you do your exam as a teacher with your students. So the jury listens to what you tell your students for an hour, and then you have a surprise student, which is of course somebody you met before in the music academy because it's another student, but you don't know who that's going to be, and you have to work with that student in your teaching class. So that was my experience. It was not a big experience, but I had ideas about singing that were also rooted in my experience with logopedy, with speaking therapy. Because I had a summer long, I had lessons with a speaking therapist, which taught me so much about the human voice, about voice in general, because whether we sing with it or whether we speak with it, it's the same instrument. And that's what I tried to apply in these master classes. And I have to say, and I think it's not a shame, because it's the same for every teacher. If you remember the first time you tried to explain things, then it was not the greatest teaching. First of all, I sang too much. And of course, it's always easy. There's this famous clip everybody should check out on YouTube. It's called Alfredo Kraus Gives Some Advice. And it's really, really funny, because it's Alfredo Kraus singing for a student. And of course, the student sounds terrible, and the master, Alfredo Kraus, sings fantastic. But singing, of course, teaching is not singing to your student and say, do it like this. It doesn't advance students much. But that's a bit what I did at the beginning, and that's how I got into teaching in the first place. And then later I did more and more master classes. I did one in Helsinki. That was already the next step, I would say. And then I found out also that always singing for the students is not good. And these days I rarely sing for students. That's the challenge. I mean, you have to try to explain something that is very difficult to explain. It's not a scientific method. I cannot approach somebody and say, strengthen your left vocal cord a little bit more, and then this or that. I mean, there are places, there are muscles we use in singing that physiologically cannot be addressed consciously. There's only the deviation through associations. So if I tell somebody, imagine you have a hot potato in your mouth, the mouth goes into a position that will be good for something. So as a teacher, I have to be very creative and very individual, because there are students who understand the hot potato thing, and somebody else needs to imagine he smells on a great glass of wine. Somebody else, you touch and you say, you have to feel more here. Other students, you shouldn't touch at all, because it destroys the trust. So you have to be, especially in the first lessons with a student, you have to be very careful, and it's about sensing how the same truth about singing can be communicated in the channel that the student needs. As Richard Levitt says, it's easy to learn singing. It's difficult to become a singer, and it's the same with teaching. It's easy to sing, it's easy to explain, and what you say might be the truth, but it might be the wrong way to explain it to this particular student who's right in front of you. So I think it's almost 70% psychology and sensitivity of the teacher to find the right approach to the students.
The time is now, I mean, at the mid of the 90s, where you start to travel a lot. Is that correct?
Yes.
What does it, how does one approach that? Does the understanding of it come later? Are you, first of all, excited about traveling all over the place? When does it start actually becoming, to become something that you live with, the idea that you're global? All of a sudden, there are no limitations.
Well, I think you have to learn that extremely quickly, because I remember the first time ever I went to London, I sang with John Elliott Gardiner, the one and only time I worked with him. And, well, I was in London, so the afternoon I spent being a tourist, and I found myself in the rehearsal extremely exhausted at night. And I thought, that thing, I mean, you are not here as a tourist, you're here as a singer. So I never did that again. It never happened again. I understood very quickly that when I travel as a singer, I'm a singer, I'm not a tourist. So, and it's the misunderstanding that people have. I mean, I always say the best example are the taxi drivers in Baritone that brought me to the train station. The same driver who took me 15 or 20 times, whenever he left me at the train station, he said, have a nice holiday. Because to many people, to most people, suitcase plus airport equals holiday. And I don't know how often I had these problems when I said, oh, can you do me a favor, this and that, in a private situation? And back then with my ex-wife, and I said, could you sort out this for you? And where will you be? And I said, well, I will be in Paris. And she said, ah, yes, I have to do the work here in Paris. And she knew me for many years, and she knew exactly what I was doing, but it's always the misunderstanding that if you leave your house with a suitcase and you get on a plane, that is somehow related to relaxing and holiday. But it's for me, when I leave the house, I'm already programming 2 days later the concert at night. And I don't leave the hotel, I stay in, I go only to the rehearsals, I try to travel widely, so I have, I don't know, if it's a long distance flight, I have my whole bag of saltwater nasal spray, this and that, I mean, all things to keep the voice in shape, because, I don't know, flights to Australia, and all in all, you spend up to 23 hours in the plane in air conditioning, and when you arrive, your vocal cords are basically mummified. They are like dry leather, and it takes a while to get the voice back in shape, and it's every singer, I bet every singer has his or her own little remedies and tricks to get by this traveling stress.
Yeah. Just a thing to everybody, I understand that there are some people who experience difficulties with their sound system. There was one before, I cannot say who it was, it seems to me it was a tie, but now it looks to me as if everybody does not have problems and that everybody is able to listen to us. Well, two things that came to mind when you were telling your anecdote is that the first kiss is almost never the best kiss, but it's the one you always remember, so it's probably the same with the first lesson you give, first lecture. And I was just wondering whether the fact that you did not bring that perfume from Paris to your wife when you traveled is in any way responsible for her being your ex-wife.
No.
You don't have to answer that. It's not very. We now go to something that I think is another beginning of a very long, at least musical friendship with Edin Karamazov. That's the recording that was done in 2001, already with Decca. And first of all, the name, which sounds to English speakers of today as if it's wrong spelling, was the name that Robert Dowling put in a musical banquet with 2 L's. But before we go into Amarilli, which is another famous and very, very beautiful song, you really do a lot of honor to it. Tell us a little bit about this musical friendship with Edin.
Well, Edin came to Basel before he started his studies to accompany one of my colleagues, Igor Paro, a lutenist from Croatia, who did his diploma concert. And usually diploma concerts in Basel are a fairly boring affair. You have your repertoire list, you have to present something from this period and then something from that period and something with continuo only, some opera aria, so they're all pretty much the same. And Igor invited 3 friends, and it was an ensemble who called themselves Les Barons Karamazov. It was Edin, and then it was Zoran, who plays on, Edin played a double bass done with a broomstick, bucket, and a chord. So he would stress the chord more or less, and he would boom, 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 boom. He could play the bass on that. Someone else played the guitar, and Zoran would play on a huge table full of bottles, water bottles filled with different amounts of water, so that every bottle had it was like a, I don't know, like a marimba phone. He's a percussionist. And they played a double concerto by Vivaldi for 2 lutes. Well, what Vivaldi called Baroque mandarin, even. Mandarin, like the fruit. And they had only one mandarin, which was played by Igor, And the second one was played by Zoran on the glass bottles. And you can imagine it's called the Schola Cantorum Institute for Early Music. It was like a circus show. It was so refreshing. It was so much fun. And I remembered the face, and I bumped into him. Adin, hello, Adin, interesting name. And then he started studying with Hopkins and Smith. At the time, I was playing with a lutenist by the name of Andreas Martin, who was a very good friend, and we played many concerts together. We did a recording of English folk songs and lute songs for Harmonia Mundi. And then I was supposed to sing at a Vortragsstunde, a student concert, and Andreas Martin was not available. And I clicked with Adin on a human level, and I thought he's a really cool guy. He's a very exotic guy also. I mean, he's not your average early musician. So I asked Adin, hey, would you like to play with me? I said, sure, let's do something. And I played a few folk songs and lute songs with him. And the truth is, he's a genius. He's a genius on the lute, and he's one of the most gifted musicians probably the most gifted musician I ever met. And looking back now, the best moments on music, what are the best moments in music? Also a good question. It's not when you perform at your most brilliant, but if I think the moments when I found myself on stage and I was very much in the moment and I was completely relaxed, I didn't worry about anything, are the lute song concerts with Adin Karamazov. We're both sitting on stools, and we look at each other, and so what's the next song? And he makes a little joke, and we start laughing. And then he plays an introduction, and he improvises. Sometimes he improvises a few bars, sometimes he improvises for 3 minutes, and eventually I start singing. And then after the first verse, I feel maybe he should play a little interlude, so I don't sing, and he starts playing, and it's just the most relaxed, the most beautiful music making I can imagine.
Edwin Karamazov is also the only lute player that I know who plays bluegrass on the lute. He plays American bluegrass. I actually saw there's a short footage of you two on YouTube where you're playing, you're fooling around a little bit, and he really drums on the lute as if it's a country guitar. Amarilli Mia Bella for voice and lute by Giulio Caccini. Can you tell us a little bit about Giulio Caccini?
I don't know much about his biography. I know that he was a master composer in this Italian monodic style, something that at the time was brand new, stile affettuoso, a way of dramatizing the music and infusing the music with a drama that is motivated by the words. So it's a very emotional style of composing compared to the distant style. But also the question would be whether English music was really meant in that slightly reserved way that we hear it being performed these days, because you can really dig into In Darkness Let Me Dwell or a song like this in the same way as you can do with Amarilli Mia Bella. But I would say that Caccini was the master of this style.
Yeah, most of the songs are really very, very, I don't want to say dramatic, but they're very full of emotions, and they're very affettuoso. They're very, not infatuated, but very nice to listen to, sounds of nature. very beautiful interpretation of Andreas Scholl of Amarilli, Mia Bella, Mio Amor. The angel is gone, Andreas. The angelic voice that sang Bach with Herewege and Buxtehude with René Jacobs. What happens? Why is this the lack of the angelic character that was, I don't know, it might have been something, as you said before, something that I found very, very interesting. You said that for a singer it's very important not to stand still. I interpreted when I studied acting, I had fantastic teachers. I was very lucky to have very, very good teachers. And one of my teachers, a very famous actor, he used to say, the biggest danger for an actor is to fall in love with a person he does not have to fall in love with, himself. And he says, this is what always happens when you succeed, you fall in love with yourself. Don't do it. But you always had a very strong personality. The way you sang, I found, was always, even in the ensemble, maybe you cannot distinguish your voice from the voice of Maria Kira. I promise you that I can. But here, it's almost the same voice, but there's more of telling a story here. Is it because of the music, or is it your interpretation of music?
It's a choice. I mean, it's not that the angelic voice does not exist. I mean, last year I did a medieval music recording, and it's about very light singing and almost no vibrato, so that dissonances are very clear, and it's still possible, but it needs to be applied, this style of singing, when it suits the music. I mean, it's like beauty in singing is not the ultimate goal. We're communicating music that somebody else has composed. So somebody like Caccini writes here, Credilo pure se ti morta sani. He says, like, well, if you don't believe that you are the only one, Amarilli, I will give you a knife, take this knife, cut open my chest, check out my heart, and you will find your name scratched, engraved in my heart. So, well, you can sing this beautifully, of course. And then you sing, take the knife and cut my heart. And we hear singers do this. There are singers who do exactly this, who sing dramatic music, and they're mainly concerned about beautiful sounds. And there is an audience for this. There's an audience who wants this, because beautiful singing is singing that gives more space for interpretation. If I, as a singer, have not many ideas what I really want to say with my singing, and I focus on the beauty, there is no stringent interpretation that somebody can reject. But it's like a big white canvas, and people can project their own ideas, spirituality, meditation, they hear an angel sing, whatever, because I don't give them anything specific, I give them beauty, so that's what they can basically project into it whatever they want. If I think about what does the composer ask me to do, he says, here's somebody who says really tough words. So, and we hear Elin play this drum, prendi questo mistrale, take this knife. And I decided, well, this is not meant beautifully, this is dramatic, and the way I have to sing it, because I owe it to Mr. Caccini to not be vain and in love with my own voice, I have to, if I believe that it's meant in a dramatic way, then I have to sing it in a dramatic way. Richard Levitt always says, don't forget the animal inside. This is something really important, that there is a primal energy, something need and the desire of a composition to communicate. And as a singer, I deprive the composer by singing things really beautifully, but it's probably a terrible drama happening, and I sing it beautifully, then I miss the point. I really miss the point. And there's an excuse for this for young singers, especially countertenors, young countertenors, let's say until you are 30 or something. We're not stupid. We know how people react to the countertenor voice. It's an attractive sound, and people fall in love with the voice, not with the singer, but with the voice or with the voice type. And then I can always deliver what they want. I know, hey, I stretch this note a little bit longer and make a little crescendo. It might not make much musical sense, but it's this stylish, the mannerisms, I would call them. And this satisfies a certain audience. But the audience who wants to get meaning, they will understand what I mean if I really think about what I'm doing. The problem is, if I think about what I'm doing, I say, this is how I see the piece. I mean it dramatically, and in that moment my voice is not beautiful anymore because I choose to not be beautiful anymore. And then the listener either says, good idea, I think I know what he means and I support this idea, or he says, I think it should be beautiful, and then then they will reject this idea. So if I give a concrete interpretation, it leaves less space for the listener to project things they want to hear. It's not their desire that gets something out of it, but it's me telling them something. And that's what you describe as the angel is gone. The angel could be there, but the angel would be a show, and the angel at 42 years old would be ridiculous. I'm not 27. I'm not the boyish young Andreas anymore. I am 42 years old now. It's like, we talked about it last time, it's like the gorgeous, beautiful, blonde, sexy soprano, and she sings Susanna and Nanetta. She does all these roles, and we love her for it. And then she becomes 30, and she becomes 40, and how long can she do this? There's a moment when it will be not credible anymore. There's a moment when it will be pathetic, and you see some, I don't know, 50-year-old Susanna, nobody would buy it. No, this innocent, beautiful, light quality, it's nice if you're innocent, young, and light. And if you cross the threshold of 90 kilos, probably your body reacts differently, and you feel that you have more weight intellectually, more weight vocally, and your vocal tools, your knowledge, your voice, everything is expanded. And I would castrate myself if I would say, because I know I would be more popular with certain kind of audience, I choose not to sing intelligently. I reject my interpretation. I know what I would want to say, but instead I choose beautiful sounds. And then I don't know, I present myself in the boyish way, but I'm not. I'm 42. I'm the father of an 11-year-old daughter, and I'm not a boy anymore. And some people suffer when they have to realize this, and I get sometimes evil, angry letters or mails that clearly show that somebody is so sad that I'm not 27 anymore. I don't know. It's like if I was married to Claudia Schiffer, and after being married to Claudia for 20 years, in the morning I wake up next to her and I say, Claudia, what's wrong with you? You don't blow me away anymore. How could it happen that I got used to your beauty or something? There's so much psychology in what the listener wants to hear in the human voice.
Well, first of all, thank you for what you chose. Just very fast, I think we are all familiar, I'm sure we're all familiar with the Four Seasons, Vivaldi's Four Seasons, which for me for a long time, well, I love Vivaldi, but for a long time that particular piece, the Four Seasons, was what I called an elevator music. It was something that I was used to hear in those huge American buildings going up in the elevator. Whether I heard it or not, this is what I thought I was hearing. And then one day, I go almost unprepared into a concert in Sicily. And there's a group of rather young musicians led by this guy that looks like a devil, short, red hair, and they start playing, and all of a sudden I understand, hey, this is what Vivaldi actually meant. And this was Fabio Biondi with Europa Galante, all of a sudden not playing what everybody wanted to hear, but playing what they felt that music was supposed to say. And from that moment on, Four Seasons again made a musical sense and not only a way to pass the time on a boring elevator ride. We have a request here from Gerhard to listen again to Amarilli Mia Bella after what you said, because I think, and I rather go with that request, because I think that it will be better for us and easier for us to interpret your interpretation after we've heard your. If that's okay with you, we will listen to that again, and if it's okay with everybody else. So, Amarilli Mia Bella, Andreas Scholl, a daughter of 11 years, sounds like this. Very beautiful again. Let's see if I can unmute Andreas. Here we go. Okay. That was very beautiful again, as I said before. And I would now like to go to a bit more of what it means to be a singer with a very, in my book at least, an incredible gift, not only of a voice, but of the way of delivering a song, and of being very, not lyrical, very dramatic in your delivery, which brings up a question in my mind. Where can you go with it? Do you think about, I don't know, I'm just throwing ideas, maybe commissioning somebody to write for you?
Well,
go ahead, sorry.
There are a couple of pieces that musicians wrote for my voice. There's a Stabat Mater composed by a friend whose name is Marco Rosano, and there is an oratorio with text by German medieval mystic Meister Eckhart that another friend composed for me. So the voice is open. I mean, there's no style police that says a countertenor must not do this or that. I mean, I don't pay a fine if I sing Schubert, or it's, in the end, it's about finding your audience. You have to, if I believe Schubert is something I like, or a contemporary piece, I give it a try, and I then think maybe I can record it. And if I record it, eventually people say, I want to buy it, or I don't like it, I will not buy it. Then you have the opportunity to pre-listen in iTunes and everywhere, so you don't have to buy something you don't like. And it's a self-regulating process, I would say.
How is it to wake up every morning as Andreas Scholl, with everything you did in the past, and still being actually alone, because you're not part of a group anymore? Okay, you are a teacher, but you actually, from everything you say, you actually decide where you want to go. You actually decide what you're going to do tomorrow. As you say, if it so happens that you want to sing Mozart, you'll sing Mozart. I don't think you're going to sing Cerlina in La Ci darem la mano, unless you want to sing the Don. But you say Schubert, you say something else. Is that not, I mean, I know it's exciting, but is there no moment of fear where you wake up and you kind of think, I think I've done everything, I don't know what to do now?
Oh no, I remember Anthony Rulli in Basel, and it was about a master class about English lute songs, and he kind of learned that students would go through a book of Gallen songs or other lute songs, and they would say, that one's gorgeous, but it's a bit too high for me. And then the next piece, he said, no, don't pass a beautiful piece because it's too high. You just transpose it up, down, whatever you want. Make it fit your voice. And if you want, you can sing English lute songs until the end of your life without ever singing one song twice. I mean, that's a huge bug flying here. There's no need to be bored. Never, never, never in early music. There's so many unknown operas, I don't know, centuries of music history all over Europe that needs to be discovered before you get bored. I mean, it's like asking a Mozart singer, are you bored singing Mozart, or is there a limit? Well, you're not forced. The Mozart singer can say, well, but I also like Bach, or it's an open music world in a way, and even more so these days because the audience likes, I think, at least once in a while, if an artist tries something different. I mean, there's only so much Handel and Bach that I can record, and as much as it makes some people happy, others might say, hey, this Stabat Mater from Marco Rosano, we have really, really strong feedback from people who listen to it on a website and who heard the concert that we did with it in Australia. And then I did this oratorio with big symphony orchestra, and it's a strange mix of almost pop music and classic and symphonic and early medieval, everything thrown in, and the audience was really happy to hear something different for a change. And it's very rewarding for a musician to once in a while realize a project that is a bit extraordinary. Also, we did last year medieval music recording Oswald von Wolkenstein, and we did that as a staged production. I had the idea that the music is so interesting, it would be sad to only have the music in concert. We need some kind of presentation, some visual presentation, some projection, or an actor, somebody who speaks. And on that basic idea, somebody developed a concept. And for once, I did not just walk out and sing the music, but I spoke, I walked on stage, I sang in my baritone voice, I sang in my countertenor voice, and it was once you finish a project like this, it's a very satisfying moment. You say, hey, a few years ago I had an idea to do something else than just do a concert, and here we are, and the audience liked it, and it's lots of fun.
This brings me back to something that I am very sad I couldn't find. The recording you did early in your career with William Christie of the Les Arts Florissants, who actually had this incredible idea to have singers that can also perform and with all the Baroque costumes. You did send me the MP3, but it doesn't work. I don't know, something
I resent it.
Worked up.
I resent it, maybe.
Oh, you did? Next time we'll have it. So, I tried it when you sent it to me in the beginning. I would like now to go, not to singing in an ensemble, but you did a recording with Les Talents Lyriques with Christophe Rousset of the Stabat Mater of Pergolesi with Barbara Boni. How was it working with Barbara?
This was the first time I worked with her, and later we did quite some concerts with the Stabat Mater, and I got to know her much better. And first of all, she's one example again to work with somebody who's actually better in what than yourself. It was a challenge. I was a bit nervous to sing with her, but she's a super colleague. She's not only a good singer, but probably she's also just such a good singer because she's on the same way a wonderful human being. I mean, for me that's probably more important than the musical quality. I mean, it doesn't help me to work with to sing with a monster if the voice is beautiful and it's gorgeous singing. I want to work with people who I can establish a connection with, I can relate to, I share musical ideas, and also especially if you do duo things with a soprano or with another singer, there needs to be this telepathic communication between singers. The voices do things and you don't plan everything, and that's what happened with her. She's a fantastic singer and a wonderful person.
So we'll hear Stabat Mater of Pergolesi, Barbara Boni, and Andreas Scholl. there was what you said happened to you the first time you listened to Monteverdi. It's what happens to me almost every time I listen to Stabat Mater that you sing here with Barbara, and I kind of never tire either to listen to this or to Buxtehude. There's something so eternal, and that if you do it in authentic kind of way, and when I say authentic, I'm not talking about the movement of authentic instrument. I'm saying if you do something without putting on a show, if you do something with the music, for the music, I think the audience understands it in a different way. At least for me, it happens that, again, I can listen to Stabat Mater. I don't want to say every day because it's not, but I never tire. It's always a new experience for me. It's always very exciting, and I would like to bring us to the next step and probably close to closing this very interesting meeting, because I'm sure that everybody, like I feel, can go on talking to you for nights and days. One of my ideas about what we would like to do here at U-Sophia is to have master classes for listeners. And my idea is that there's nobody like a performing artist to be able to do master classes for listeners. How do you feel when you go to a concert of somebody else?
First of all, I don't go to concerts very often. I was at a concert, for example, last Sunday. I went to a concert of Edin Karamazov. He played very close to where we live here, so we went and heard him. And it was a gorgeous concert, a lute solo concert. The first half was almost an hour because he was asked to play a piece more because they were afraid that it would not be enough music. But for 1 hour I sat there and I just was amazed. So it's important for me to, I think as a listener, to first of all be aware that my expectations and my prejudice are being taken into the concert. So what I will listen is not absolute. It's not that if I leave the concert hall, well, I don't know whether I think last time I talked about it, is the listener who came up to me after the concert in Bonn. I had a concert of Purcell music, and did I tell that story last time?
Yes.
Yeah.
But we don't have the same people, so...
Well, it just shows that the misconception of what musical communication is about. I sang a Purcell concert, and afterwards a woman walked up to me while we were on the way to the restaurant, and she said, well, to tell you something, 10 years ago I heard you in Bonn, and I sat there and it was like a meditation for me. And tonight it was too much performance, or it wasn't performance. And there was not enough time, and in a way the sad truth is that these moments hurt, also because people intend them to hurt. It's a punishment to the artist. It's like, why I got always such great moments through your singing, and tonight I didn't cry, or tonight I wasn't meditating. What did you do wrong? That's a bit that's a bit the blame. It's essentially what people do. And I had another concert in Paris when I was not in great shape. I was not fit. I didn't sing well, and there was another person who dedicated an entire video clip to me. It was lots of work. She must have sat for hours copying all negative comments about this performance. And she writes in her comment, she says, that, yes, it's a bit unfair, but he provoked it. So the fact that I disappoint the listener gives, in their eyes, them the right to punish me for it. But musical communication is lots of psychology. There are moments when I'm ready to be moved and I'm open. And there are moments when I'm not, when I'm closed because I'm busy thinking about other things. I'm not in a great mood. I find myself in a concert and I can't switch instantly to this listening mode. And or I heard just a few bad comments about the singer, and I start listening to that singer in a completely different way than if I had never ever heard anything about the singer. Or if somebody tells me this is the greatest singer you will ever hear, and then I sit in a concert and I'm not blown away, I'm disappointed. Whereas if I wouldn't have been told that it's gonna be the greatest experience of my life, I might have enjoyed it a lot. So it shows that our mood that we enter a concert hall with is very much also what determines what we will take out of a concert. The truth is that normally I never walk out thinking, well, tonight I don't want to give everything. I'm thinking more about the schnitzel and the beer after the concert. I don't want to think about Dowland now. I just sing it. And if nobody does it, no musician does it. I mean, that's why we're musicians. You walk out on stage so the audience can, in 99.9% of all cases, the audience can be sure that whoever is up there gives everything they have and works very hard to give you a good experience. So if that doesn't happen, it can mean that it's a bad performance, but it can also mean that I didn't receive what the musician tried to send me. And because this musical communication is bidirectional. It's not just somebody delivers, hands out a pizza from stage, and then the listener can consume it. But I walk out, and I think I said that last time, I perceive the audience as an entity. Sometimes I walk out and the audience is noisy. People will not stop making noises. There's always a little, somebody eating a bonbon, somebody dropping his brochure, somebody's mobile phone goes off. And you stand there and you say, hey, if you want me to sing, then could we please have some silence? I never say it. But I just stand sometimes for a minute or two and I don't start singing, and the audience, after a while, they get, why do they not start? Maybe it's because there's no silence. And then eventually you can create music into silence. And if a concert starts with complete silence, it's going to be completely different atmosphere and a different experience for the audience. I mean, everybody who listens now knows concerts that were destroyed by somebody sitting next to them, coughing, making strange noises or something. It exists. So hey, there was a great performer out there, but some noise, something distracted me, and it took away my listening pleasure. And it's a very sensitive thing, musical communication, and it's by no means a unidirectional way of communication. It's bidirectional. The audience needs to be ready, and the audience can be sure that the one who's making music on stage senses the listener. I sense the listener, and I feel whether people appreciate what I do, whether they're encouraging. Sometimes also I'm not feeling so great, and I walk out, and the first applause is so positive and nice that I say, hey, people are happy to see me and happy to hear me, so I relax, and I can sing a completely different concert than if there was just what we call a tea applause, just a little bit of clapping. So there are so many factors that influence the experience for the listener that it would be a mistake for the listener to think that everything I take out of the concert hall depends on the musician. It does not all depend on the musician.
That's definitely true, and I seriously think that I would like to dedicate a whole evening to conversing with you about really about a masterclass for a listener, not only as a musician, but really as a listener. I mean, I talk about my own experience, and we cannot be rid entirely of our prejudices and of our prefabricated and pre-masticated ideas that we have. Even if we try to get rid of them, it doesn't work. And if, as a listener, you are 100% in love with the string quintet of Shostakovich, and you go to this concert, and you prepare yourself to hear it again as you love it. It's your piece. In your mind, you are so linked to that piece, and all of a sudden somebody is playing it different. And for the first minute, or 5 minutes, or sometimes the whole concert, you just cannot hear it, because in your mind, you have the quintet played and delivered in a certain way, and you're not open enough to allow a new experience. Because I think that music, especially in our era where music is available in a rather easy way, let's not forget that 150 years ago, people would know about music by reading music, but not by listening to it, because 200 years ago, only the nobles would listen to music at home. So today, it's not like that. I mean, you don't even, it's sad, but you don't even have to understand music in order to be engulfed with music wherever you go. You go to YouTube or whatever, you listen to music. So it's a different experience, but still, I think if you have the sensitivity to love music and not to wait to be entertained by music, there's a whole school to go through. There's a whole learning procedure, and I wouldn't like to start this now because it's, I think, a very broad conversation, and I would love to do it in another occasion. I think I talk for everybody here, Andreas, in thanking you for another unique and outstanding evening, and I would like you to give us an encore from the pieces that we heard today. What would you like to sing for us again? From the Stabat Mater or the Buxtehude, or?
Oh, it's difficult to make these choices because I really like all the pieces.
So why don't we open it to everybody, and everybody just says very briefly what he likes, and because of the echo effect, I would really appreciate if everybody just writes it down into the chat, and we'll do it very quickly. I mean, let's not waste too much time on that. Just I can very quickly go over the pieces that we heard today. We heard the Dietrich Buxtehude, we heard Ombra Mai Fu, we heard Amarilli Mia Bella, and we had Stabat Mater with Barbara Boni. So let's see what we have here. Stabat Mater, says Yvonne. Nobody else says anything else, so I think we will go. It's very difficult to choose, but I think I would like to hear the Stabat Mater again. Seconded. Okay, I think we have a new pope. Stabat Mater it is. Thank you very much, Andreas, and thank you, everybody, who came to be with us here at U-Sophia or Minds Meet Online. I will now mute everybody because otherwise we'll have difficulties hearing Stabat Mater, Pergolesi, Andreas Scholl, Baritone here at U-Sophia, where minds meet online. Okay, that was again Stabat Mater, very beautiful, and I would like to thank you very much, Andreas, and thank all of you. Andrea and I will be speaking to see when you can find more time to be here with us. You have to understand that he insists on still doing some concerts and not only coming to be here with us at U-Sophia. First of all, I have to say something, and I'm talking here for myself. I'm not representing the opinion or the feeling of anybody else. But for me, it was such a heartwarming experience to listen to you as a human being that delivers with everything you do, you say, you are, the depth of emotions that come across not only when you sing, but especially as a person. And for me, it was an outstanding experience to be able to sit next to Andreas Scholl, the person behind the artist, who are merging all of a sudden to be one living entity and not an animal up there on the stage. That one thing I'm sure that you know, that people actually do not really expect the performing animal to go to a restaurant as a normal human being and eat a pizza. I mean, it's against every regulation. So I think the lady was probably a little bit upset with you because she saw you go to a restaurant and not disappear into the singing paradise or something. Let's see, somebody is writing here something in chat. Okay, Sabina is thanking everybody, and so is Gerhard, and so is Dan Reisner. And with these words, thank you everybody for being here with us. And please, first of all, go out and buy CDs by Andreas Scholl, and come back and be with us here where minds meet online. Good evening.
Goodbye.
Bye, everybody. Good night.